All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking the hidden forces that drive lasting success and human behavior. We're going to dive right into the facts, exploring the profound difference between simply getting things done and actually inspiring people to move mountains. So, let's kick things off with a quick test. Picture this. A 43-year-old man, raised Roman Catholic, is being sworn in as his country's chief executive on January 30th, 1933. And standing right by his side is a famous general who had previously commanded his nation's armed forces in a war that defeated Germany. Any guesses on who we're talking about?
I bet you assume John F. Kennedy, right? Well, the correct answer is actually Adolf Hitler. The details I just gave you apply to both men perfectly except for that exact date. When I first heard this, it completely blew my mind. It reveals something huge about human nature. It proves how easily our baseline assumptions and perceived truths can lead us completely astray. We routinely make massive decisions based on what we think we know, even when our foundational information is fundamentally flawed. When I first picked up Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, this brilliant piece of misdirection right at the beginning totally threw me off. But it's designed to challenge us from page one, sparking a shared journey to reevaluate how we make decisions, how entire organizations are built, and exactly how we motivate the people around us to actually take action.
That brings us to part one, fixing by default versus fitting by design. Let's look at a fascinating metaphor that perfectly captures the two contrasting paths organizations take to hit their goals.
Imagine a group of American auto execs taking a tour of a Japanese assembly line back in the day. Now, in the American plants, the manufacturing process was, well, a bit rough around the edges. A line worker would take a literal rubber mallet at the very end of the line and physically tap the car doors just to make sure they fit into the frame. But over in Japan, that job didn't even exist. When the Americans asked how they ensured a perfect fit without the mallet, the Japanese guy just smiled and said, "We make sure it fits when we design it." The Americans hammered doors to fit by default. The Japanese engineered them to fit by design from the absolute beginning.
Think about your own workplace or daily life for a second. That American rubber mallet, that represents our first path of leadership, manipulation. It's using short-term tactics to force a desired behavior after the fact. The Japanese engineering approach represents the second, much more structurally sound path, inspiration. This means giving people a real sense of purpose and a flawless blueprint from the start, so they act entirely on their own accord.
Which leads us straight into part two, the cost of manipulation. You see, when organizations don't actually know why their customers buy from them or why their employees work for them, they frantically search for something to hit. They aggressively default to that rubber mallet.
And we're all subject to these tactics literally every single day. These manipulations are the typical carrots and sticks thrown at us to force short-term behavior. Whether a massive corporation wants a purchase, a local politician desperately needs your vote, or a boss demands basic compliance, these tactics are everywhere. We're talking price drops, heavy promotions, fear tactics, intense peer pressure, or those overly aspirational messages. And make no mistake, they definitely work. But we really have to ask ourselves, at what cost?
Playing the price game? It is literally like a drug addiction for a business. It offers a fantastic, immediate short-term high, but the more you do it, the harder it becomes to kick the habit. Buyers get entirely used to that low price, and suddenly your life's work is just a mere commodity. Consider Walmart. They built a wildly successful empire solely on price, but their relentless obsession with keeping costs rock bottom has left them dealing with massive scandals and a deeply hurt reputation over the years.
To see the sheer cost of this endless promotion game, just look at General Motors. The contrast here is wild. From 1990 to 2007, despite heavily advertised, desperate cashback incentives ranging from $500 to $7,000, GM's U.S. market share completely plummeted from 35% down to under 24%. Meanwhile, Toyota was playing an entirely different game, engineering by design. Without needing to aggressively bribe their customers, Toyota saw their market share more than double in that exact same time frame.
By 2007, GM's addictive reliance on these promotional manipulations resulted in a staggering loss. They were losing, get this, $729 on every single vehicle they sold. This perfectly proves that while a rubber mallet might force inventory out the door today, these manipulations are incredibly costly, they totally erode profit margins, and they are, in the end, completely unsustainable. Moving on to part 3, those who start with why. Let's toss that rubber mallet in the trash for a minute and look at the soaring stories of the rare leaders who successfully chose the path of inspiration.
Think back to the intensely competitive race for human flight in the early 1900s. On one side, you had Samuel Pierpont Langley. The guy had everything: a massive $50,000 government grant, a literal dream team of the best minds, and extremely powerful friends like Andrew Carnegie. Everyone was watching him. On the flip side, you had the Wright brothers. No funding, zero government grants. Not a single person on their team even had a college degree. They just worked tirelessly out of a humble bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio.
And yet, on December 17th, 1903, boom, the Wright brothers took to the skies. They succeeded where a perfectly resourced, highly educated, heavily funded team failed. Why? Because their intense passion, their clear reason for doing what they did, inspired their team to literally change the world. Langley was just chasing the goal, the fame, and the riches. The Wright brothers started with their why from day one, and that core belief engineered a level of unmatched dedication that no amount of money could ever buy.
And hey, this isn't just some old history lesson about early aviation. We see this exact same powerful contrast decades later with Apple in the 1970s. Steve Wozniak's core desire was to level the playing field, giving the little man the computing power of a massive corporation. Steve Jobs matched this deeply held belief with a vision to build a company that would make a massive global impact. They weren't just selling circuit boards to hobbyists. They were selling a revolution. They had a clear purpose.
Because Apple starts with that why, they reached a monumental $1 billion in valuation, with a B, in just 6 years, growing to over 3,000 employees. And what's truly unique is how they expanded. They didn't use a rubber mallet to force their way into the music industry or the phone industry. They engineered their entrance by design. They've successfully repeated this pattern of inspiration to disrupt entirely new markets over and over again, simply because people believe what they believe.
Now, this framework extends way beyond the world of business and tech. Think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On August 28, 1963, 250,000 people descended on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. There were no invitations mailed out, no websites to check. Yet the people came, and they just kept coming.
He was able to inspire a massively divided nation to change because he delivered a powerful, unifying vision. He gave us "I have a dream," right? He didn't stand up there and say, "I have a comprehensive 12-point plan." He started with why. This perfectly illustrates that people follow great leaders not actually for the leader, but for themselves. That 250,000 people didn't just show up for Dr. King. They showed up for their own deeply held beliefs about America. Finally, Part 4, Forging Your Own Path. The absolutely crucial point we have to take away from all these varied stories, from auto plants to early flight to civil rights, is that true, unshakable loyalty just doesn't come from carrots or sticks. It does not come from manipulation.
You know, there are leaders who simply hold a position of power and authority, and then there are those who actually lead. Those who lead inspire us. People will endure massive personal inconvenience. They will gladly pay a premium for a product, and they will act for the greater good of the whole, not because they're forced to with a mallet, but because they're genuinely inspired from the inside out. So, as we wrap this up, I want to turn the mirror on you. Look at how you operate in your own life, your career, your daily interactions. Are you constantly relying on that rubber mallet to smash the doors into place at the last possible minute? Or are you taking the time, up front, to ensure everything fits perfectly by design from the very start?
Ask yourself the genuinely hard questions. Are your customers buying from you, or are your employees following you because they have to, or because they deeply want to? Are you using a rubber mallet to drive action through costly, exhausting manipulation, or are you actively sparking true, long-lasting inspiration that leaves people eager and excited to follow your lead? Honestly, the answer to that question is what will ultimately define your long-term success. Think about it.